Hello, everybody. This is Richard Bird. They call me the church brand architect. We're also the owner of Birdology Group. First of all, I want to thank you for being here. So happy you're here. I need to shout out my guest. I can't even call my guest, my co-host, my cohort, the guy I call my big brother, the one who makes it happen, the entertainment lawyer for everybody in the whole wide world, my friend, entertainment attorney James L. Walker Jr. Esquire. Y'all throw some hearts up. Let's give a round of applause for the man.
Hey, thank you for having me, man. I just praise God for this day, and I'm glad that He's keeping us protected in this pandemic, and praying for all the families out there that are dealing with this.
Now, Jay, I know you, known you for a long time. But there's some people here that's going to be on this live here who don't know who you are, or actually the breadth of the stuff that you've done and accomplished in what is your 20th year of being in the entertainment business. So just give us a quick rundown of just who you are, and some of the stuff that you do.
I'm an entertainment lawyer based in Atlanta, also Connecticut, DC, admitted in all those jurisdictions, and I do everything from film to TV to music. And today we're talking about the Clark Sisters movie, which I've been with Twinkie Clark for over 20 years. I worked with her for over 20 years, and this music was kind of the last project I did with her, which was a wonderful project, and getting it cleared. But over the years, I've worked with kind of a who's who in the gospel and music industry, R&B. We have shows on air now. We're working on films. We're just having a lot of fun, man. Just having a lot of fun.
I just want to make sure, guys, if you can hear us, just go ahead, drop something there in the comments section. Let us know that all of the audio is going the right way. I see Zach's down there. Hey, brother, Walita. We got some people up in here tonight, sir.
I see him. I'm trying to look over here to my left. Hi, Willetta. Hey, Danielle. Hey, Barbara. Jamise. Alex. Hey, my sax player. I see you all. I'm just learning how to work this. Robert Russell, my chef. Hey, Robert. Adrian Bryant. Robert is a brilliant financial mind, too, y'all. Adrian Kia Jones. Hey. Hey, Jennifer. Hey, I see we got everybody here. Okay.
Ernest Barfield is here.
Who is that?
Ernest Barfield's in the house.
It's having a lot of fun. Oh, wow. Okay. Hi, Ernest. Cool.
So this live is going to be part discussion, part storytelling, and then, of course, a place where you can ask your questions. We're going to ask you kind of hold them off to the end, but be sure, when it's time for the questions, throw them right down there in the comment section. I'll get them up there for James to see. Again, go share this out. Make sure as many people that we can educate on the entertainment industry. That's what we're here for. This is the start of a little series. I guess we're calling it This Business of Urban Music. I don't know if you can see right over Attorney Walker's shoulder there, but the book, This Business of Urban Music. If you don't have it, please go grab it. It will bless you. As they say in the church world, it'll bless your spirit. And more importantly, it's going to bless your pocketbook and your wallet, because after you've spent time in that book, you'll know how to navigate the entertainment industry. So, Attorney Walker, let's start with this question. What was your involvement in the Clark Sisters movie?
So I got a call about a year ago from the producers who had the idea of doing it. They were affiliated with Queen Latifah, Missy Elliott, Mary J. Blige, who were the executive producers of this. And they basically asked me, could I get the music clear? As you know from the excerpts of the trailer, there was a time where one of the Clark sisters, I guess, gave her music away or sold her music and did a deal. So for years, there's been this story of, does she own the music? Is it hers? So they called me and said, can you get this music cleared? If you can get this music clear, we got a great, great movie idea with Lifetime. So I started working over a year ago with Lifetime, with the producers, the production company, with Twinkie Clark, who I've been with for 20 years, off again, on again. And we got the music cleared. We probably cleared about 30 songs or so. I lost track, but I think it was about 30 songs. I don't know if they all made the cut, but we cleared them. And what's telling about this, Mr. Bird, is that when we first met Twinkie in 98 or 99, somewhere around that time, she didn't have control of her catalog. And one of the first things we talked about was taking control of the catalog and getting the catalog back in her hands and back in the family hands. So we did what's called a reversion. We met her in the 90s, and about 15 years later, we put the Copyright Office on notice, and we basically recaptured all of her songs back.
Okay, now before you go there, we got to break it down. So,
okay.
What does it mean to clear a song?
Okay. Well, when you clear a song, well, first of all, when you use a song on an album or in a movie or in a TV show, if you put the music up there, the songwriter, in this case, Twinkie Clark, she has the copyright rights to the song. So Twinkie Clark has to be notified. Her administrator, her lawyer, or her team has to be notified so she can grant you the use of the song. Otherwise, you have not cleared it. So when we say we clear a song,
so all these people who are putting songs up on Facebook, they can get it cleared.
They technically should get it cleared. I mean, it would be a nightmare trying to correct everybody doing it. But yes, Facebook and even YouTube will make you now have to make sure you have a clearance on some things. Okay. So we got the call. The question was, can we clear this music? And we started getting these songs cleared. And we've probably done well over 300-400 licenses for Miss Clark over the years. Once we got the rights back in the mid 2015, 2016 timeframe, we notified the Copyright Office. We notified those who used to administer her deal, and we got the songs back. Now, people may say, why is it so critical? Well, it's critical because if I'm controlling hits like You Brought the Sunshine, Looking for a Miracle, Balm in Gilead, Blessed and Highly Favored, and the list goes on and on and on, I could be making millions of dollars off your songs if I control the clearances and I control the copyrights.
So your copyrights, this is one thing, you and I used to have these conversations all the time about, like the finances and the money involved, especially in publishing. Give just a quick second. We used to use that, the analogy of a dollar, how it's 10 cents. Talk to us real quick about what are all the different rights and that you have.
The bundle of rights is what you're talking about. Under the copyright law, you have a bundle of rights. You have the right to reproduce your song. You have the right to do a derivative of your song. You have the right to put your song in print music or sheet music. There's a whole bundle of rights that you get to distribute your song, whether it's on a CD or whether it's in a movie, wherever. So when we talk about the copyright, it is important to know that you must own and protect that bundle of rights. And when we talk about the Wow albums, for example, many people know we cleared hundreds and hundreds of licenses for the Wow albums. But when you talk about a Wow album, those albums go platinum. So if you're a songwriter on the Wow album, you're talking about 9 or 10 cents for every copy of that Wow album that sells. Now, Brother Bird, you may think that's not a lot of money, but if you talk 9 cents and I sell 1 million copies, you owe me $90,000. So my job as the person clearing it is to make sure that a writer like Twinkie Clark or Donald Lawrence or Richard Smallwood or whoever the writer is, making sure that they and their team know you can get 9 cents for every copy of this CD that sells. And Richard, we're only talking about CDs. We're not even talking yet about what we call synchronization rights. When you put music to TV and film, you synchronize music with TV and film. And that's another bundle of rights and another bundle of money. Then we talk about digital. We have a young lady in our office that runs our digital licensing and publishing. We're collecting money on YouTube, Spotify, Pandora, overseas, neighboring rights, world rights, sheet music, print music, folio. We're collecting money everywhere. So one little hit song could be worth $3, $4, $5, $10 million for the life of the song.
So what you're saying is that there is a different bundle of rights when it comes to TV and movies. I don't want to say it's over and above your regular copyright, but it's different because James, most people believe that if they join your performing rights groups,
BMI,
your BMI, ASCAPs, those places, that is the bundle of rights. Like that's going to pay them for everything, but that's not the case.
That's not the case at all. I'm glad you say that, because that is a misnomer out there. BMI, ASCAP, and CSAC, which is the largest now, they collect your monies when your monies are on radio. They collect what we call performance royalties. So radio, if I own a big bar or a big restaurant or lounge, I've probably got a license from BMI to use the songs in their catalog, because they're going to collect those kind of royalties, and they're going to monitor what are the hottest songs of the season, and that's how you'll be paid your pro rata share. But they're not collecting on CDs. They're not collecting on some digital stuff. They're not collecting on things like sheet music. When that local choir records your song, BMI, ASCAP, they're not dealing with that, nor CSAC.
Wow. So let's go back to the Clark sisters movies.
Sure.
The movie. So you were approached. Um, how deep or how involved were you in putting this movie together?
Oh, I was very involved. I was one of the first calls that the producers made, because they knew for years that Twinkie Clark and company had been fighting to get her music back. It's been widely known in the industry that her music was being administered by another company out in Detroit. So the first call they made was to me. I sat on the phone with the producers, the Lifetime execs, 4 or 5 lawyers. It was about 10 or 12 people on the call. And they directly said, can we get this music cleared? If we can't clear this music, we don't have a movie, because the Clark sisters sound is the music and is the movie. So we worked extensively over the months. We ran into some roadblocks, but we finally ultimately got it cleared. And at one point, I thought we might not have a movie. And I said to the producers, like, hey, if we can't get this signed off by all parties involved, I don't know if we can put the movie out. But we were able to just hold steady, hold firm, and a lot of prayer. And we got the songs cleared. And to your viewers out there who are questioning, does she have her rights? Yes, Twinkie has the rights to her music. I don't know if that's featured in the tail end of the movie, because we were supposed to have a screening this weekend, a red carpet, but obviously with the pandemic, which I'm praying for everybody, for those who just joined, I'm praying for everybody that is enduring this pandemic. We were supposed to have a red carpet this weekend. However, we could not have it because obviously we can't travel, but she owns the rights to her music. We got all the hits back. Is My Living in Vain? You Brought the Sunshine. I mean, the list goes on and on and on.
So basically, up until that deal was done, what, 2015, somewhere 2014, in that area.
Yes, for those that just joined us, we had the songs recaptured in 2015, and the copyright laws allow you to assign your copyright. Then in the 35th year, you can give notice to the other side that you're going to recapture the copyright back. And that's what you have to do. And we're doing a lot of that work with our partners in LA for a number of well-known songwriters and artists. And
so that's what you call the reversion.
Correct. The rights revert back to the songwriter.
Let's go back to that, because we've had extensive conversation about people who sign paperwork. I definitely wanted to say that this was something that was common. We're not saying that Miss Twinkie, Auntie Twinkie, did anything that there was a lot of people that were signing these pieces of paper, receiving stuff, and not really knowing that at the end of the day that some other company basically owns the song. So can you talk a little bit about what happens when you give even administration rights to someone else? Like what kind of...
Sure, I get your question. There's several kind of rights that you can sadly give away sometime and not realize. There's the administrative rights, which you're referring to. So under an administrative deal, I might take 10 or 15% to administer your catalog. And what that essentially means is Richard Byrd wrote a bunch of hit songs. He comes to me, he's trying to buy his first house. He's a young writer in his 20s or 30s. I come to him and his family and I say, Richard and Suzette, I'm going to give you 30 grand to take administration of your song. Now, the trick is when I do that, you have to make sure that all checks still go to you or that you get a copy of everything. You also have to make sure that you specify what they're collecting. There's the writer's share and there's the publisher's share. Do you want them to collect 100%? Do you want them issuing every contract? Do you want all requests to go to them? Interesting fact, we're talking a lot about this Clark Sisters movie, but did you know Twinkie also owns the Family Affair song with Jay-Z? A lot of folks don't know that. About 2 years ago, Jay-Z and Beyonce did the Family Affair song on the Family Feud. I think it's Family
Yeah.
Feud song on the
Yeah.
Family
That's
album.
what the higher.
Higher, right, with Twinkie's
Yeah.
Higher in it. Well, a lot of people didn't realize that the licenses were going to the wrong place. And the song was out for 6 months. And one of my office mates said, "Hey, have you heard this song by Jay-Z? I think that's Twinkie on the hook." And I went and played it. And sure enough, it was Twinkie's song, Higher. It's the very hook on the song. And now all the licenses have to go to Twinkie or who she designates, because now she owns half of the song. And to Jay-Z's credit, his team cooperated when we notified them that, hey, we own half that song. And the song, I think we're at 4 or 5 million copies sold, something like that.
Right. So now, real quick, what's the difference between administering a license and being the publisher? So being an administrator versus a publisher.
The difference is supposed to be when you sign a publishing deal, I advance you a check, usually a substantial check, and I'm supposed to go out here and get your songs placed. That's why I'm a quote publisher, because I'm going to get your songs published. So you're Chris Brown, you're Yolanda Adams, you're whoever, Hezekiah Walker, and you write a bunch of songs and you sign a publishing deal, which I don't know if any of those people have one. I'm just randomly throwing out names, but you're a big songwriter, Donald Lawrence, and you sign a publishing deal with Sony BMG or EMI or somebody, that publisher is going to advance you some money. And this is key to your writers that are listening. Try to get some of the money to be a signing bonus that's unrecouped. So if they advance you $100,000, they may not give you $100,000 free, but try to get some portion of it as just a flat signing bonus. I'm signing this money and I don't have to pay this portion back. Because the other part of the loan, Richard, they're going to require that they play songs and those songs start making royalties before you see a dime. So that's what a publishing deal is. It typically is a deal where someone is supposed to publish your song. Usually there's a requirement that you deliver so many songs a year. So I sign a publishing deal, you sign a publishing deal with BMG, they give you $150,000 in the first year. They want you to write 10 songs at least that year, in addition to the catalog that you already have out there when you came through the door, because they're banking on that catalog having pipeline, what we call pipeline income, already kind of in the flow coming quarterly to pay back the advance that they gave you.
And so specifically, I want to talk about control of the song.
Okay.
Typically, and correct me if I'm wrong, typically when you sign a publishing deal with a songwriter agreement, that publisher has full control of that song. Like they decide where it's placed. They decide, they collect the money from it, and then they give you a portion of that. Is that right?
That's the traditional way it works, unless you're creative and you say to them, I only want you to collect 50%. I want to administer the other 50%. Sometimes they'll control the publisher share and you control the writer share, because a song has two sides, a publisher share and a writer share. So I'm James Walker, the songwriter, and then I'm J Walk Music, my publishing company. So what you try to do is you try to set it up where some of the money hopefully is coming directly to you as a songwriter, because you don't want them to collect it all and say, well, we're going to hold it all until we recoup. And we know the worst thing is you don't want them to hold the money, have you sign as an artist and a songwriter, and then cross collateralize the two, so that they spend $2 million to make your album and you're writing all these hit songs for other people. And they say, well, your album didn't make the $2 million back. So we're going to go over here and dip into your pot. And we're going to try to get money out of these publishing pots. And, I worked with Pepperco for years, Brenda Culpepper, when we were in Connecticut. And she was one of the early people in this industry that really taught me the publishing game. We would sit for hours in her office and talk music business 101. Yeah. And I really got up to speed watching how she was building such a huge publishing catalog with songs by John P. Key and East Coast Regional Bass Choir and Lucretia and Payson. So she had a whole bunch of people.
Early Kirk Franklin.
Early Kirk Franklin, yes. And Kirk is an interesting story. When Kirk first came out, he did his deal with Gospel Centric, and then he did a publishing deal with Lily Mac Publishing, the sister arm to Gospel Centric Records. Right. And then I think over time, he kind of started taking control of his songs back. And I hope he eventually went and got all his songs back if he assigned any.
So cross collateralization, because this is a term we often hear in music. And it's something that is usually, it's a clause in the recording agreement that most artists miss. Just go a little bit more, just go a little deeper into what exactly is a cross collateralization caveat inside of an agreement.
Back in the day, you would have individuals who would be a great artist, but an even greater songwriter. So what would happen is the record label would know, hey, if we spend 100,000 making this Bell record or this whoever record, and it just tanks, we want to know we got money coming from somewhere, from some pot. Oh, he wrote these 3 big hit songs and the Supremes recorded them and the songs went double platinum. And we go back to what we said at the top of this for those who are chiming in now, and I appreciate those hearts. Thank you for those pressing the hearts and the likes. I will love back on you. I appreciate all the support. But for those chiming in lately, that songwriter has written 3 big hits, and those hits are generating $200,000-$300,000 a year, each one, because they're a hit song on a platinum, double platinum album. So what the record label says is, well, since we spent so much to make the album and the album didn't break even, we're gonna now cross collateralize, meaning take money from one pot and go pay off the other pot. So you're sitting there and you're saying, well, I wrote this hit song, I should have a big publishing check coming. The record label says, yeah, you did, but we didn't break even off your album. However, we owe you $500,000 over here as a songwriter, and we're going to take all of this to pay for your album. The marketing, the trips to the Grammys, the clothes, everything. We're going to use those monies from your publishing side to pay for the artist side. Well, you know, that's what they cross collateralize. So you don't want to ever let them allow a cross collateralization if you can. And I know we're in an age of what they call a 360 deal, so it's a little different.
Well, you know, we've seen deals, Attorney Walker, where they have signed a songwriter as an artist with really no, they didn't really want him as an artist, you know, or her as an artist. They really just wanted to get their hands on the publishing deal.
Oh, yeah, definitely. We've definitely seen that because that's where the money is. The money in this game is the publishing. That's why one of the most dramatic scenes in the Clark Sister movie, if you watch the trailer, is them talking about Twinkie signing away her publishing in the 1980s.
Yeah, and you know, so let's go back to that just real quick. When you own the publishing, or when you're a songwriter and you do that publishing deal, that publisher gets paid every time someone records that song or re-records that song.
Correct. Anytime somebody does the song, whether a cover, which we call a compulsory license. If somebody just makes a straight cover, you can't stop somebody from recording your song because we have what we call a compulsory license, which means you're forced to give the permission. But that publisher, yes, he or she or their company will issue a contract that's called a mechanical license for your songwriters out there. And if you're a songwriter, just put 1 or 2 in the box here so I can see what songwriters we have, what producers we have. If you're a songwriter, type in a 1. If you're a producer, type in a 2. And if you're an artist, type in a 3. So I can kind of gear my answers to help what we have here in the audience, Richard.
Hey, Lucinda's in here. I just had to jump because, you know, Lucinda's such a good friend of the firm. She says she's still looking for hers.
No, well, hi, Lucinda. Hi, Paul. I see Paul. I see Ernest. Ernest. I see a whole bunch of people. I don't have my glasses on. Joy's in here. I see them all. Noni Ellison, a brilliant attorney's in here. Yes, I see everybody. I'm scrolling.
Yeah, I see some ones. See a lot of ones popping up. And so let's go right back to this. When you are a songwriter, you get the money from the covers and the re-records of the song. But if you're just a singer, you're just a musician on the project, or the artist, if you will, if someone does a cover, you don't get paid for that.
You don't get paid for that. Because when you're an artist, you're probably under work for hire. So I hire you to come sing Marvin Gaye's, you know, Mercy, Mercy, Let's Get It On, whatever song. And Marvin Gaye's family that controlled the estate of Marvin Gaye, we would have to get a license together with them. And they would get paid if yours go platinum. Remember when Whitney Houston did I Will Always Love You? Dolly Parton stood up at the awards show and just couldn't stop smiling and laughing and thanking Whitney, because my estimate is Dolly made about 10 to 12 million off that song. because she was the songwriter of I Will Always Love You. Whitney Houston sang it through the roof, and we all know it, and it's been used time and time again, but Dolly Parton is the songwriter. The same thing when you look at Motown, Berry Gordy created Joe Beat Publishing. It was a combination of his children's names, and Joe Beat Publishing owned all of the Supremes, the Jackson 5, Temptations, Four Tops. A lot of that great music was owned in part by Berry Gordy and his company, Joe Beat Publishing, which was more powerful than Motown, believe it or not. We all know Motown, but Motown sold for, I believe, 61 million. Joe Beat Publishing sold for about 200 to 300 million because he sold a little bit in the beginning, then he sold more later. And it's just a phenomenal story of what you can do when you own your rights to your copyright. And I should point out to your artists, do we have a lot of artists here? I see 1 and 2. I see those ones. I see 1 and 3, Alex Banks. I see a lot of 3s, 1, 2, 3, 4. My son, being a clown, said he's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. When you're an artist and a songwriter, you have to be careful to pay attention that an artist is under copyright law called work for hire. And you'll see it in a recording contract. You'll see this master is done work for hire. And what they mean by that, Richard, is literally that. We pay you, we hire you, and you don't own this master. You don't own the songs. You don't own the cover. We use your face on the cover, and you don't own that cover.
And we're not paying your taxes.
And we're not paying your taxes, correct.
So we talked a little bit about the difference between the publishing that's for TV and music. So how many TV shows are you working on now? Because that's moving to TV is a new thing for the firm.
Well, we have clients with either a songwriter or on-air talent on pretty much all of the reality shows: Love and Hip Hop, Basketball Wives, Growing Up Hip Hop, Real Housewives. I'm going blank. But we have clients on all of those shows. We work with We Network, VH1, BT, MTV. We've worked with all of them. We have existing contracts or clients on all those networks, and we're either doing 1 or 2 contracts. Either we're doing the on-air talent for the show, or we're doing music where we're licensing the music for those different shows. And for years we did that with BT.
There's a quick question here. Lucinda says, does Sound Exchange, so she says Sound Exchange pays on the covers, don't they?
Yes, Sound Exchange pays that. Sound Exchange, you got to have a letter of direction to them, and it's a whole process that you have to go through. But there's a lot of money sitting at Sound Exchange that artists are not following up on. So I want to encourage everybody, inbox me or find Tammy Luttrell in our office and get your Sound Exchange money, because there's a lot of Sound Exchange.
Get yours. Jason Hendricks says, I guess we probably kind of talked about it. Jason wanted to say, could you talk a little bit more about Sound Exchange?
Yeah, we just talked about it, Jason. Hi, Jason, too. I love Jason. I've known him for years. But yeah, Sound Exchange, they find money all over the world. You have to get a letter in. They deal with producers. They deal with songwriters. You got to really, really follow up with them and stay on top of them. So
Sound Exchange is more of a clearinghouse. It's not like a publishing company. Sound Exchange is a clearinghouse that finds the money for you and says, hey, we're sitting here with this pot of change. If you want it, come get it.
When the digital explosion happened about 5-10 years ago in the music industry, Sound Exchange stepped forward to be that company that's kind of helping us navigate this digital space. And it's very important.
And since we're talking digital, YouTube licensing, these licensings that you're happening now, IG is coming out where your songs are being played or portions are being played on Instagram. And of course, what everyone is talking about right now, your TikTok. How does the licensing work for that? And how do you get paid?
Yeah, well, what they're doing on many of those TikTok, Pandora, Spotify, YouTube, they all have a formula, and they run so many millions and millions of downloads and views to determine what you get paid. And each one has a specific rate that they use. And we have a chart in the office, and we can look down the chart and see, okay, what are you going to put on YouTube? What are you going to get on Spotify? What are you going to get on Pandora? They all have a different rate. And then there's some lesser known ones out there like Google Music, Google Play. They also pay. It's just having a good lawyer, a good manager, a good publisher, a good administrator. Someone has to follow it. And we have a team in our office that works diligently to track wherever your music is used and tell you exactly what's owed to you.
And I think on the other side, let's just talk business really quick. This is CEO talk, guys, not necessarily music, but CEO. You
Okay.
also have to know where the the digital licenses fall in your revenue stream.
Correct.
We often have this conversation about, hey, I'm not getting paid a certain amount of money on all of these people streaming my stuff. But as the CEO of your career, the CEO of your music, do you think that digital is icing on the cake, or do you think maybe digital music is an expense because it's what brings people into knowing your music and you make your money somewhere else?
Well, I think digital music is the now. I think we've gotten away from sheet music and mechanical license. I think you have to go to school right now and get an education on digital music, because that's what we are now. We're not printing CDs and tapes and vinyl albums anymore. We're doing more now digitally. CD Baby, TuneCore, Apple Music, iTunes, all of these things are digital. So I don't know if I see it as icing on the cake. I think it is leveled the field. To put our CEO hat on for a minute, I think if you're a young songwriter or an artist, I think you go direct digital now. If you're a main artist, a Hezekiah, Kurt Franklin, somebody, do you even need a record label? You can go digital and move 50,000 units in a matter of minutes and keep 80%, which we have to touch on that. With the digital explosion, I, as an artist now, can keep 80%. Whereas in the old days, the 80s and 90s, I might have got 8% if I was lucky. But most of the time, like we know with Tony Braxton, I end up negative 2, 3, 4, 5 million. So yeah. I think the digital is the greatest thing that could have happened to us as an industry. And I want to encourage those who put a 3 in the box. I want to encourage them that they have to get up to speed as artists on digital. Don't be intimidated about it. I think Jason just posted the Sound Exchange page here. Thank you, Jason, for doing that. I see Mr. Christopher Edwards, a great singer-songwriter. I think you have to get on Sound Exchange website, read it. We put out things all the time, articles, blogs. You want to get the digital under your belt, because a lot of the old guard in the industry, they don't even understand the digital. We've had so many writers and the older managers that we call and we say, hey, are you aware you got $100,000 that's out there digitally? And they say, oh my God, we had no idea.
Yeah.
And the young ladies in our office are tracking all the time, finding the money.
Well, you remember, I'm not going to sure we should say his name, but we had an old school hip hop artist whose songs are the masters, if you will, of most of the hip hop that came after him. Remember, came to the office that time, and was at that time they were ringtones. That was the real big digital. That was the real ringtones, and we found a good $400,000 of ringtone money because it was everywhere. I think it's the same thing. But I also, for people, I want them to kind of understand you're not going to make, even though you're making 80%, you're not making $55 a stream. That's just not how that revenue stream works.
No, you're not at all. You're not at all. You could have 15 million streams and you might see a few $100s. Streams have got to be really, really phenomenal. But it adds up when you know all of the lanes that you're being streamed in. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
YouTube, Spotify, overseas. That's where it gets kind of lucrative. And you got to stay on top of it.
Yeah. And so, what happened is, you're with Attorney Walker. You go through that whole of making sure I know where your money is. And then the conversation kind of hits me, because now I start looking at, what is your whole business model? Because how do those revenue streams move your margins?
Right.
At the end of the day, you are not a songwriter. You are not a musician. You are not a singer. You are a business.
Correct.
And as a business entity, you have to know where your margins are. How much profit am I making at this particular place? Not just how much revenue, but how much profit am I making with each one of these revenue streams? And so I think that's always the case that I see with people that come, who have come through our offices, is they're like, well, I'm not getting paid what I would get paid if it was on radio. Okay.
I see a question. I saw a question I want to ask. Ernest Barfield asked the question, do I need a record label? In this age, does an artist still need a record label? the short answer is yes and no, Ernest. If you don't have the marketing muscle and you think you need a partner to help you market and you don't know how to hire a Richard Bird or a private marketing company to help you, you might need a label support. But if you're smart and savvy and you're going to get out there and grind and make a street team and find a radio promo person, then you could do it on your own. I'm big on independence, but I understand some people don't have the drive to get up every morning and go do the work to break a record. Anyone can record a record, but to break a record is another talent. And you have to know yourself as the artist if you can really, really break a record and if you're going to do the marketing legwork.
So as a new songwriter, what is your suggestions or advice on getting their music out?
As a new songwriter?
As a songwriter.
Yeah, I think first of all, you identify who you write for. My songwriters, can y'all put one again? I want to address their questions too. Songwriters are 1, producers are 2, artists are 3, not 3, 4, 5, and 6 as somebody wrote. If you're a new songwriter, Richard, I identify right now what's my style of music and who are my targets. So if I know I write real hip, slick stuff and I think Timbaland would like it, or I think Bad Boy would like it, or I think, somebody on the R&B hip hop side would like it, I'm going to go direct to them and their team and say, look, I got music. Everybody's looking for the next great hit. And what digital media and social media has allowed is you can reach people now. You can get directly to that executive with a label. Whereas, Richard, in our day, you couldn't get beyond the wall unless you had some cards in your pocket. And by cards, I mean well-known A-list, B-list artists that would cause a record label to return your phone call.
Or you got really good with the secretary, the administrative assistant that would be able to get you past that gatekeeper.
The gatekeepers, but now we've eliminated the gatekeepers for all intents and purposes. So if you're a new songwriter and you write really, really contemporary, up-tempo, great songs, and you got kind of a Kirk Franklin flow or Anthony Brown and group therapy flow, then you go direct to them and say, I got a song. I want to get it in your hand. I want you to hear it. And you press and press until they hear it. If you know you're a great worship writer and you write really, really good stuff, you go to a Stephen Hurd, you go to Donnie McClurkin, you go right to them. If you know you're writing love ballads and R&B ballads and you think Toni Braxton could use one, you go to her camp. The whole wall has been taken down right now for a new songwriter. It's the most exciting time because you can actually get to people if you do the research and if you go look and see who's the contact person for so-and-so label or so-and-so artist, and you can put it right in their hand.
We have a question from Jackie. Which of these digital distribution companies are the best? If so, how many these days? Who's the best?
I can't even endorse, without them retaining me to say that. I don't want to say who's best. I think they're all good. I like Sound Exchange. I like Google Music. I like YouTube. I don't have a who's best. I think you just look at your style of music and you see who does the job in your genre. Who is the best in that genre? We know, Richard, which performance societies are good at gospel music, which ones are good at R&B music, which ones are good at hip hop. We know which is which. So I think you got to do the homework and decide who fits you. The same thing with your manager legal team. By the way, somebody is asking the question, what are your suggestions for how producers can track their music? I think we answered that one.
We'll come back to that one.
Okay.
Jason is asking, talk about how much publishing should a new writer give up just to get placement?
How much publishing should a new writer give up?
Mm-hmm.
That's funny he asked that. Back in the day, a well-established 5-point producer, say a Babyface, a Jerkins, a Diddy, somebody with well-established credentials, they might come into the studio, write one line, if that, and rightfully so, they would want a percentage of the publishing. And the question becomes, well, do I give them half? Do I give them 5%? Do I come 10%? The question I ask Jason or ask your songwriters out there is, how much does that song mean to you? Is this the break you need? And you might have to give up a little bit. Can you get a reversion clause in there? So you let them maybe ride with you for a period of time. We've done that with our writer, David Frazier. We've licensed his song where people will ride with David, who wrote I Need You to Survive, for those who don't know what I'm talking about. We've done deals with him where we may say, hey, we're going to share something with this person for a brief window and then bring it back. So to answer his question, it's a case-by-case basis. You don't want to get ripped off, but there are many situations where somebody says, hey, I'm going to put you on the next Adele album. And you know it's going to go multi-platinum. And the question is, do you give up 50% in that scenario because you want to be on that Adele album?
You know, half of something is something, and half of nothing is nothing. And you have to make a business decision. Now, you know, people used to come in the office for us, Walker, and they would ask, you know, they'd be like, "Can you do this? Can you do that?" For the exposure. You know, exposure is a big thing for people, and that's kind of the question. What is the formula that you use when trying to figure out, is this pro bono worth my time and effort?
That's a good question. Also, please keep sharing. I see people sharing. Please keep sharing this on your pages because I don't do this often, but with this pandemic, it's a good time to talk directly to people. So I'm asking everybody who's on, please share it to your page. But to answer your question, Richard, what is the formula? On a case-by-case basis. So for example, if it's a song Shirley Caesar wrote and I get a call, you know, we did the You Name It thing. So we get a lot of calls to use the whole You Name It song that she did with the DJ. So in a case like that, your leverage is different than when it's a new writer or a one-hit writer or a five-hit writer and somebody calls you to use his or her music. You have to weigh the leverage of your client. You have to also weigh, is this a field we're trying to get into? So a TV network called me recently from the Shazam show, and they wanted to license one of our top writers and artists' song for the Jamie Foxx Shazam show. The price wasn't where I wanted it to be, but I made sure it was Most Favored Nation, which I will explain what Most Favored Nation is for you, those watching. And I also knew I needed this writer to get in that TV space. So I had to budge a little bit. Now, if it was another non-TV show request, I might have said, well, we want this much or else we might just pass on it. You know, it all depends on case-by-case basis. You also look at whether or not it's an area that your client needs to expand into. You look at the relationships of who is that record label? Are we doing other business with them? Who is that TV network? Do we have shows on their network already? And all of these factor in your mind when you go back to your client, who's going to always say, it's not enough money. It's not enough money. I want more money. And you have to go back to your client and say, well, they're not giving you 50,000, they're giving you 30, but you're going to be on this national show. And they're going to run the song in reruns and, you know, throughout the year.
And it was always about, you know, because I always get this question about exposure. The first thing that I look at when someone asks me, you know, can I do something for exposure? Do I think, remember we have the question, do I think that I can get more money out of the publicity than what they paid me? So if my normal rate is $15,000, can I get $20,000 or $30,000 in publicity and or relationships? Correct. In order to make that worthwhile? And well, I think where artists and songwriters forget is when you take a deal like that, where you're being, you know, you're finding people who you can build a relationship with, you're finding exposure, if you will, and you're getting into a place you never would have gotten to. It is still your job as the business to make it worth your while. No, you got to go out and you got to hit the pavement, and you need to put out your own set of publicity that says, hey, I'm on so-and-so's album, I'm in so-and-so's movie, go check this out. You have to be your own cheerleader in these cases to make it worth your while.
Oh, totally. I think you have to be that. And you allude to a great point, even with this Clark Sisters movie. We called this conversation today on the heels of clearing this music for the Clark Sisters. I was so excited for the network, a mainstream network, to do a story on our sisters' lives and what they mean to music, not Black music. The Clark Sisters mean something to music. And I want to make sure in this conversation we don't get away with the impetus for what drew us to the screen today to talk. But when that call came in a year and a half ago, I was so excited because, like you said, Richard, I thought of the marketing from it, the just PR from it, the publicity from it, the inspiration from it. And I will say this right now, if this thing does less than 2 or 3 million viewers tonight, I would be very shocked, because I really think it's going to shoot through the ceiling. And I think it's going to forever change the lives of these 6 sisters, the Clark sisters. And I think the marketing of it is key in terms of where they want to go. They want to touch lives, save lives. I think it's just a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. And you have to weigh all of what you just said in trying to make a fair and reasonable deal that works for everybody.
We have a question here. Big homie Jeff Banks says, can you address ghostwriting? Having a Truth Hurts Lizzo experience versus a Truth Hurts experience. So monster hit, get sued, and be bankrupt. Like, is there anything you can say on that matter?
Say that one more time.
So it's about addressing you being a ghostwriter on a song that then becomes a super hit. Right. And then, the person who's used the ghostwriter is getting sued. I think that, am I correct, Jeff? Is that what you're asking?
I'm not sure. I'm looking for his question. I'm not sure what he's asking. I think he's saying, well, let me explain how ghostwriting works. Usually when somebody's ghostwriting, we do book deals too. Usually when it's a book deal or ghostwriting deal, it's a work for hire. So the ghostwriter or collaborator is kind of shielded unless they misrepresented something in the contract between the two parties. But typically a ghostwriter is just that. They come in, they write, you pay them a fee, they're done. So you're going to be getting sued. But he raises a very good point of, in this digital age, I have a lot of clients who are taking music over the internet from other people who are ghostwriting it and selling it to my clients, whether it be beats for my rap artists, or whether it be a hook for my R&B artists, or whether it be an organ thing for my gospel artists. And I'm trying to get my clients to understand you have to clear that. You have to know where that track came from, where that hook came from, because we see litigation now where John sells the music or gives the beat to rapper so-and-so, and then the rapper puts it on his album, and then somebody in LA comes out the woodwork and says, hey, that's my beat. And John says, well, I got it from here and there. And the rapper says, well, I got it from John. And it's a lot of confusion. So similar to the ghostwriting, you got to make sure you indemnify, because the record label is going to make you sign some kind of sample clearance agreement. If you're a ghostwriter or if you're the main writer, even if you use a ghostwriter, they're going to want to know all the samples are cleared. And going back to that Jay-Z example with the Highest song, somebody in doing all of that didn't realize Twinkie's song was the sample. So we had to get all of that cleared up while the song had already gone platinum. And when that happens, for those who out there who don't know, I could have made a phone call and said, hey, we want to pull the record.
The whole record.
Permission to use it. And I've had to threaten to do that in many cases. We're going to pull the whole record. And obviously we didn't do that. We worked it out. But that was a simple situation where you didn't clear the sample before you put the record out. Or in fairness to them, the wrong company came forward and said they owned the sample and misled you. That's more of what happens in these cases. And then somebody plays the record and says, wait a minute, they don't have the rights to administer. We have the administration rights, and we have the whole country right.
Well, we're coming up on an hour, James. So I just want to let's turn to some, I don't call it personal, but some get to know you stuff. Okay. Which is the songwriter or artist that taught you the most?
I'm biased. I want to say Miss Aretha Franklin, but that was only for a year or two. I would probably have to say Donald Lawrence. Donald Lawrence taught me the most personally as a business songwriter. I think Jackie McCullough taught me the most as a person. And just as a deep spiritual friend. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like Jackie McCullough is like a mentor, someone I look up to and love, and Cindy Trim. But I would say as a business mind, Donald Lawrence, Stephen Hurd, these guys just know the business, particularly Donald. Donald knows the business inside and out. And I worked with Donald, I think 4 or 5 years, and just learned so much about the business from Donald as a young attorney.
And this kind of Donald was, how we really got into the administration side and administering a lot of the WOW projects. He was
the first one to call us and say, hey, are you aware writers haven't been paid on the WOW album? And I didn't know what the WOW album was in 99, 2000. And then I called around and I found out 12 writers hadn't been paid. So we stepped in and worked with the collaborative of record labels that put out the WOW albums 20 years ago. And we got all of those songs cleared. To come back to our clearing question earlier, how do you clear a song? we ended up getting songs cleared. Be Encouraged, Marette Brown Clark song. I mean, it was just a great experience.
Yeah, there was a time. This is a little tidbit for people who are watching. There was a time on a 20-track project that we represented 15 tracks on those WOW projects at a time, whether it was a writer, songwriter, producer, or the artist themselves.
Correct. And I got to give credit to Dr. Jones. This is why I don't like to name names, but Dr. Bobby Jones was also one that taught me a lot about the business. He and Dr. Caesar, being veterans in the game, they both taught me a lot about the business, and not just the business of how you do the deals, but the business of temperament. And I want to say that to your artists and songwriters and producers out there. There's a temperament in which how you do business here. There's times where you got to be a pit bull and you got to come in, you got to do what you got to do. But there's a lot of times where it's about relationships and understanding, I got to work with these people next year, the year after, so on, for the next artist that comes through. And I remember a story. Go ahead.
I was going to say, and how long were you in the business before you got that tidbit?
Oh, I was probably in the business somewhere between 7 to 10 years. Because when I first came out, we came out blazing, kind of filing lawsuits. And I mean, you kind of get that, oh my God, are they coming to the conference to sue everybody? But you probably in the first 7 to 10 years.
I'm going to say a name. I'm going to say a name, and then you tell me, or detail, you tell me your feelings, if you will, or, what has that person done for you, or your greatest memory of that particular person. So we're going to play Name That Name.
Okay.
I'm going to start here in the middle of my little list that I have here. Jamie Foxx.
Ooh, Jamie Foxx. Buck Wild at the time. Worked with him very early on. I wrote the blueprint for his business plan for his record label, Fox Records or Foxtown Records, with his former manager, Marcus King, who worked with Jamie probably the first 15, 20 years of his career. And we were the ones that helped him in the beginning and broker his music career.
So I just got to break in there. Apostle Culpepper has joined the live.
Oh, hi, Apostle Culpepper.
I'm sorry, you were talking earlier about what an influence she was early in your day. And so to have her jump on is an honor. Let me jump into some other people. V. Michael McKay.
V. Mike McKay, extraordinary, incredible songwriter. A lot of your listeners are probably saying, who is V. Mike McKay? Well, if you know songs like The Battle is the Lord by Yolanda Adams, if you know Through the Storm, if you know The Potter's House with Tramaine Hawkins, these are all V. Mike McKay songs. The Corinthian song that Micah Stampley made very popular, these are songs by V. Michael McKay, an incredible songwriter out of Houston, Texas, who we've worked with off again, on again for over 20 years.
Let's DMX.
DMX. We worked with DMX. We did his book deal. And a lot of times people bring us in on assignment. I want to talk about that with your listeners. Like, sometimes it's not meant for you to be there for everything. You have a specified assignment. And DMX's team was led by a classmate of mine, Matt Middleton, from Howard undergrad with me and Howard Law School with me. Matt was DMX's everything. And I said to Matt one day, you guys should do a book. And Matt thought it was a great idea. And at the time, we had done all these book deals in our practice. So we worked with he and DMX for about 2 years and did his autobiography. And great guy, very approachable, down-to-earth guy.
And the crazy thing about that deal is that when you would read the manuscript, we would hear DMX in the words. So we'd be in the office like trying to do the DMX voice to make sure that we could really feel the song. I remember those days.
Those were
the early days. You mentioned Dr. Bobby Jones. So let's talk about him.
Dr. Bobby Jones. I never felt Dr. Bobby Jones got the credit he deserved for being on BET for over 32 years. He would do an artist retreat every year in Vegas. The entire music industry would go out there. We would have panels, workshops, and it was just kind of something to rejuvenate us in the music industry. And I miss those retreats. But Dr. Bobby Jones, I mean, just Everybody loves Dr. Bobby Jones. You walk through the mall with him, you walk through Vegas with him, or Nashville where he resides. Everybody loves him. And he's not credited enough with being the guy that put Kirk Franklin on TV first, put a lot of unknown people on TV first that we all celebrate now. But he was the guy that gave a lot of people their shot at Sunday morning TV on BET. And I hated to see BET let the show go. He's still doing, I think, his conferences and some things in Tennessee. But Bobby Jones was just the epitome for the artists out there. And I know we all joke about him. Hey, how you doing? We joke about his voice and how he talks. But I do want to tell the artists, pay close attention. That man retired, financially secure, had a TV show, a book out, a retreat, a conference, a show on BT, a show on the Word Network, all kind of speaking engagements, did the Urban Impact Summit with us up at Foxwoods, Richard. I mean, Bobby had 8 or 9 streams of income. And I said to these young artists, while you're laughing, or you might think, oh, that's Bobby Jones, he was doing it very smart. And he's very, very secure now as he gets up there in age.
And laying great foundation. Here's a tidbit for people that most people don't know. Do you remember we were working on one of his last projects there, and this is before Smokey Norfolk was an artist. Do you remember that story? Where we pitched Bobby Jones Smokey Norfolk's music before he recorded it.
No, Tony Dixon called us from Chicago, one of the producers on Smokey's first album, and sent us Smokey's CD, and it just had his name written on it, handwritten with a marker. And I remember at the time we were doing Men of Standard, the Tri-City Singers, Love Fellowship, Tabernacle Choir, Twinkie, and Jackie McCullough. And we were just too full at that time. It was probably 98, 99, early 2000s. And I remember the CD sat on my desk, and I kept playing the I Need You Now song and one other up-tempo song that I really liked. And we let Bobby hear it. And Bobby liked it, Dr. Jones. But we just didn't have time to shop it and present it to a label. But I remember that story very well, and probably still got the CD somewhere around the house. The demo CD.
I always tell people, I need you now. That would have been a whole different story. CeCe Peniston.
Oh, finally. Yes. CeCe is a client out of the West Coast. Her hit songs finally, and just real. I love working with CeCe because she's just real. Like a lot of these artists who have been out as long as she's been, sold millions of records. We just got back from doing a date in Israel before the pandemic. She had a date in Israel. And sometimes people will fly her in just to sing finally, because the song is such the classic song. And I want folks to know we do it all. R&B, hip hop, gospel, pop. We've got them all. And CeCe as a dance kind of queen, songwriter artist is just incredible. And she's a smart businesswoman. That's what I like about her too.
Quincy Jones.
Oh, you make me feel like the guys in LA when you say Quincy. I've met Mr. Jones several times, and when you meet him, he always makes you feel like you're with your cool grandfather or your cool, person in Israel. He's like, "Hey, young blood, what's going on, man? Come on, let me talk to you." And he'll just sit there and talk to you and drop nuggets on you. He has these awards in his home showing you all the stuff he's done, and it's just an incredible person to come and pass with. And he loves the music. We talk about music when I see him around. I miss not seeing him every year when we go out to the LA Grammys. I didn't make it this year. Usually when you go out for that, you'll run into him at one of the after parties or just kind of hanging out. And the dude goes all night. Quincy's got to be 80 plus years old, and he goes all night.
All night.
We had a question. Guys. We have a question. It said, question, I'm an artist that do concerts in prisons. Inmates are able to download music, okay? However, it's unknown who the distributor. How do I find out who distributes to the prisons? Oh, that's Sunny Day, it looks like. I think, Sunny, if they're downloading, find out what website they're downloading from. I would imagine the website would tell you who the distributor is. Also, I would imagine if you can name the artist, you can just go online and find that artist and see who he or she is signed to. I'm sorry, Richard, go ahead. You asked a question. I just want to make sure I'm answering.
Well, because we're going to jump out of music real quick. Talk about Soledad O'Brien, and then right after that, Johnny Cochran.
Ooh, gosh, two very dear people. Soledad, we helped set up the foundation where we help girls coming through Katrina and Soledad does all the work. I just help her in the beginning stages set it up. But very dear friend, I represent a lot of on-air talent, whether in their broadcasting capacity or just helping them in a nonprofit way. And she does some great work for girls who are who suffered during Katrina. She has a big gala. She has the Starfish Foundation, a big dinner in New York every year, and she raises a ton of money. But Johnny Cochran, mentor, friend, sat me down. Johnny Cochran, when he won the OJ trial, of course, we all were just amazed with him, and may he rest in peace. And for every young African-American lawyer in the 90s, Johnny Cochran was the signature face of what it looked like to be attorney, confident, brash, good-looking, handsome brother, great father, great husband. And I would see him all the time at Court TV. I was a legal analyst at Court TV when I was about a third or fourth year attorney at a firm in Connecticut and then on my own. And we would hang out at Court TV every week. And Star Jones was there. We did all these, every case that happened back then, we would cover. And I remember he pulled me in his office and I said, Mr. Cochran, I want to know how to go on my own. I'm at a big firm. I've been there 2 or 3 years. I want to leave. And he said, well, do you have 6 months put away? And I was like, oh, I didn't know, he said, put away 6 months, your mortgage, your car note, save 6 months, and then go on your own. And that's how we got our start. He gave us the blueprint of what you had to do. And usually for those going on their own, it takes about that much time to get your legs.
What is your firm? What is your nut? What is your nut? Remember, that's a conversation. What is that nut figure that you need in order to survive a month? Figure that out and then multiply that by 6. And that's what you need in order to transition out of your 9 to 5. That's the way it works.
Something else I should point out about Attorney Cochran that was great. He taught you how to navigate this thing of, I have to take on very controversial cases, but I also have to be friends with these people at the end of the day. And Vicky Mack of Gospel Centric would joke all the time that I would write her these cease and desist letters, and we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do that. And then at the end of the letter, we'd say, God bless, and we wish you and your family the best. And it's funny, but it kind of alludes to what Attorney Cochran would say, which was, you got to go out here and you got to take on tough cases and you got to fight for the little guys, which is what we've kind of made our bread and butter, if you will, and where our heart is. But at the same day, at the same rate, you got to keep a good relationship.
You have to. And people didn't know. We would send Mother's Day gifts to her.
Right.
To all the ladies every year. Like, it's not one of the things I used to say to people, it's business. It was never really personal. It's, fighting for the underdog. That's what we're paid to do. That's what it comes down to. We can't end this conversation. There's 2 people that we have to talk about before we get out of here. Bill Kreslowski. You have to talk about Bill Kreslowski.
Wow. So for those who don't know, Bill Kreslowski, a mentor in the music industry, wrote a book called This Business of Music. And the book you see behind me that says This Business of Urban Music, that was his gift to me. He went to his publishers at Random House, Billboard Books, and asked them to allow me to write this edition that sits behind you. And we've sold probably 20, 30,000 copies over the years. And I'm trying to finish the second edition. But Bill Kreslowski was the guy who basically opened that door for me. He's a Jewish gentleman in his 80s, upper 80s, I believe, when I met him, or late 70s, early 80s. And we were friends for about 10 or 12 years before he passed away eventually. And he just was a genius. He threw, for the artists listening out there, he threw a contract in my face and told me, go learn what this is, and then you can pass off. He was like a tough coach kind of teacher. And the contract was a mechanical license. And when I walked in his office, I didn't know what a mechanical license was. Then he asked me to spell the word synchronization. And I said, well, SINCH, I spelled it out and I didn't know where he was going. So he said, learn what a sync license is and what a mechanical license is, and then you can practice entertainment law. And I was probably a first, second year lawyer, just coming out of law school. And why that is important for the songwriters and artists is when people use your music, you have to issue a mechanical license. If they make a video, you have to issue a sync license. So Bill Kreslowski knew that in my first and second year. Since that time, we've probably issued over 1,000 licenses since that
Oh,
time.
oh,
See,
probably more than that.
Yeah, conservatively speaking, it's maybe 2,000, but I can do them in my sleep. I put one in my book to show people how to do it themselves. And that came from Bill Kreslowski, rest in peace, a great lawyer who just taught me the ropes. And he had clients like the estate of Duke Ellington, Fats Domino. He had those kind of clients where he was administering all their catalogs and publishing.
The biggest record labels that were out there at the time. I think my biggest memory of Bill is that he was always available to us by phone. So here's an interesting fact. If you've ever called an Attorney Walker just to shoot the breeze, so you thought, and then you got a fax with invoice for his time, we learned that from Bill Kreslowski.
That was definitely Bill.
We're going to do before we do this last person. You wanted to talk about real quick the most favorite nation.
Oh, thank you for reminding me. Thank you. Yes. For guys listening, most favorite nation merely means when I get a request for someone to use my client on a show or to use their music, we put in there, we ask the question, is it MFN? Is it most favorite nation? And basically what that means, and my partner Ed Woods taught me that 20 years ago. Rest in peace, Ed. Most favorite nation is that nobody is making more money than you. So if I'm going to do the WoW album and you're going to pay Donald Lawrence full statutory rate, full 10 cents, 9 cents for every CD that sells, I want to make sure my guy gets that same rate. And in the event we find out later that someone made more money than me, I have legal action against you because you promised me MFN, most favorable nation, for nation. So always, for those listening, always ask the question of what is MFN? What is MFN? What does it mean? I see Alex Bank is on here, by the way. Hi, Alex. Kimani, how you doing? Kenyon, Lucinda, Joy, I see you all. Miss Edwards is on here. I'm just saying hello to some people. I appreciate those hearts, those thumbs, because they help us get this out to more people for those who are pushing the heart button and sharing it. I really appreciate that. Our first mission as a law firm is that we empower our artists, particularly our Black artists, who typically have been ripped off by this industry. So our first assignment is that we empower them. We used to say educate, embrace, empower. So that used to be kind of our motto as a firm when we were up north and we were doing our conferences at Foxwoods and we were doing our classes and our panels with BMI in New York. We
Christmas party.
Our Christmas parties. Yes, Brenda Culpepper just pointed out our Christmas parties. We always wanted to educate, embrace our people, educate them, and then empower them. So that MFN, mechanical, sync license, work for hire, all of this stuff is about empowering you. And circling back to the Clark sisters, I'm so happy to see this movie come on in a few hours, because for those of us that have been on this ride, whether you're on the ride with Karen, whether you're on it with Dorinda or Denise or Jackie, or in my case, Twinkie, whoever it is that has brought you on the ride, or you're just a fan at home enjoying the original quartet sound or the original harmonies that they created through their mom, Dr. Maddie Moss Clark, I'm just grateful to see this day come for them.
One last question, James. Lucinda said, do you think that this pandemic is going to change the trajectory of the music industry? How will it affect it and how will it not?
Oh, Percy Beatty just came on. That's a bad boy right there. Percy, what's the hit song you wrote for Marvin Sapp? Percy's a client of ours in Chicago who wrote he does the Stellar Wars. He does all the big award shows. I even think he wrote some of the stuff that R&B are saying they wrote. But Percy, what's the song you wrote? Post it real quick so people can know the song. To answer Lucinda's question, I think definitely it is making artists realize they can take the wall down now and talk to their consumer. When you see Erykah Badu doing concerts in her bedroom, you see Fred Hammond going live in his garage, you see D Nice DJing, and 1 million people are following him now and 100,000 are tuning in. I'm happy that the artists are finally kind of ripping down this foo-foo mask and just realizing you eat because of these consumers. And now that you can't tour, you really realize how your life is really similar to theirs, and that you don't get paid this week if you don't work, and you can't work because of a pandemic. So now you got to get on the internet and give a live concert and post your Cash App, which many of them would have thought that was beneath them prior to this pandemic. And now many of them realize I got to pay that mortgage. And many of our artists carry a lot of people. If you're a top artist, some of the names we see on this thread right now, they're carrying a lot of their family members, not only their household, but they carrying mama and them, they carrying daddy, they carrying grandma, they carrying aunt, uncle, whoever. And this pandemic has left a lot of people struggling because that artist can't work right now and get 5,000, 10,000 a weekend or 75, 100,000 a month. So to answer Lucinda's question, I think, yes, you're really, really on point, Lucinda, that it is going to make our artists hopefully appreciate the fan base greater and make them, I hope they do these kind of concerts after this pandemic is over. I hope we can go back to where they just stop by a regular church service and blessed us, like our Christmas parties, Richard. All of those are blessed us, and they didn't ask for their normal honorarium.
And so I think from a business side, the music industry has to understand that we are in what we call an attention economy. Is about stopping the scroll. If I can stop the scroll and get your attention, my job is now to convert you into something that pays me. I think the other part of this is that when my conversion doesn't always have to be you buying a 99 cent or $1.12 project. It can be buying a t-shirt, buying a coffee mug, buying a membership, buying into me as the experience. And so again, I go back to you are a business. And as a business, it's about how do I figure out what my revenue streams are and point people to all of the ways that I make money. I think Donald Lawrence said this, your music right now is a business card. It really is a front door marketing strategy. And so if that is the case, how do you move that person along your digital music pipeline? And that is really what this pandemic has shown, that there are more ways to make money in the entertainment industry than selling something on iTunes. And I think that's the part I really hope that keeps going about that. So,
well,
James,
I mean, even myself, I haven't done a Q&A like this in 10 years of having Facebook or whatever these social media outlets are. I haven't talked directly to people like this ever. So I think it's even been a wake up for me. I also want to point out Brenda Culpepper said it best. This is causing people to download more music, and we're hearing more things that we might not have heard before because we got so much time at home to explore digital spaces and digital music. Also, Percy Beatty just posted, he's a co-writer on I Believe I Can Fly, the popular song. I let him say it. He's also written a lot of stuff for Marvin Sapp. And it's just a great time to really do self-reflection and for us to really reevaluate how we do things in this business. Kia's hit me up on here. Yes, Kia. I'm the author. Our book is This Business of Urban Music. And I'm James Walker ESQ, James Walker Jr. ESQ on Instagram. She's telling me make sure I mention the book. So the book is This Business of Urban Music. My son told me to give away a free book. He just posted, are we giving away free books? So I guess he'll be sending them out. And I'm trying to make sure if there's anything else any other questions before we sign off. I think that's all of them. But I thank you, Richard, because I know I contacted you on short notice and asked you to do this today. I just wanted people to know how important this music is, how important this movie is, and just kind of the backstory on how you clear rights and how this is going to forever change the landscape. This isn't just a win for the Clark sisters, but now Lifetime will look at probably a movie on the Winans, probably a movie on the Caravans. I mean, there's so many other movies.
The Aretha Franklin movie coming up.
Yeah, we worked on that with Aretha. She picked Jay Hudson to play the role.
Yeah. Here's the last one because, guys, we got to go. We usually try only to be an hour. We're an hour and 21 minutes. This artist, James, Phyllis Hyman.
Oh man, you going back? Wow. Rest in peace. I'm working on a project involving her now that I can't discuss much on, but Phyllis was my first artist. I watched School Days last night with Zion, my teen son. He had never seen School Days. I watched School Days because I wanted him to see college life, particularly at HBCU. The college is Mission College in the movie. We all know the story, the battle between Spike Lee and Lawrence Fishburne, light-skinned blacks versus dark-skinned blacks, and that whole battle at a black college back in the 80s. And what was deep about the movie is I forgot Phyllis Hyman is in the homecoming scene. She sings at the homecoming party. And I almost choked up last night because for those who know my story, it was Phyllis Hyman who was the first artist that told me be an entertainment lawyer. She was the first artist. We promoted her in concert at Howard Crampton Auditorium, spring 89 or spring 90. I did 2 shows with Phyllis. And we sat down after that. We had to pay her. I was the promoter. I was about 20 something years old. We paid her. And she sat me down and she had a little cigarette and she's, blowing outside. And she said, "So you're the promoter?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "What are you going to do after this?" I said, "Well, after I graduate, I want to be a civil rights lawyer and I want to go to law school and I want to fight for my people." And she asked me the question, "Had you ever thought about entertainment law?" I had never heard the word before. I didn't know you could do that. I thought, like, what do? Do they sing and dance? Why they practice law?
We did a lot of that in the office.
We did. She said to me, no, in our industry right now, we don't have a lot of black entertainment lawyers. Most of the time, black artists are represented by white folks or Jewish folks. And I thought, wow. And this was, again, late 80s. And I, from there on, just had entertainment law in my head. I got to law school and I was working on those plays. How do you love a black man? How do you love a black woman? All those Shelley Garrett, David Talbot plays. I was doing all those plays.
Arms Are Too Short to Box with God.
Arms Are Too Short. I was promoting all these plays with the pursuit of entertainment law when I got in law school. And I met a guy named Spencer Boyer, my law professor. And he had heard that I was doing this as a first-year student and pulled me in his office one day, read one of the bootleg contracts that I was trying to draft as a non-lawyer at that time, as a student trying to promote shows, corrected the contract and took me under his wing. And, 5 years later, we had 60 clients.
Wow. Well, Attorney Walker, thank you so very much for this time. This is definitely something people are saying that this is something that we should do more often. If that's something you guys want, let's see. Put it down in the comments there. If you want us to come back and make this I don't know if we could do it weekly, but a show that we keep bringing back over and over again. The second part of that is make sure that you go and watch the Clark Sisters movie tonight. Sure. I think a lot of the stuff that we talked about in this conversation, you're going to see played out in the movie, especially, not from the business side of that. And like you said, it's always been about how can we make life better for those people who have come through the office. I hate to say this as a businessman, it's never really been about the money, but it really has been making sure that everyone is growing and moving at the same time. If you guys have any questions that we didn't get to, I put the email in the chat room. You can send an email to Attorney Walker. His son is in there. You see him, James Walker III. He's going to give away the book, so you guys DM him, and he'll make sure the book there can get out to you. Also, if you see someone running around in the chat room named Kia Jones, Kia does our PR, and she will be able to connect you with Attorney Walker to get him to come and maybe do some of these Zoom calls or talk to some students and stuff like that. That's something I think you would be agreeable to doing. But just get her information and she'll make sure she gets it to all of us to make sure that kind of stuff happens. Any last words?
I want to thank everybody just as you did. And I want to remind everybody that Miss Clark does have the rights to her music. I know tomorrow morning everybody's going to be texting and posting, oh, Twinkie gave away her music. I want to make sure people are clear that she has her music back. Praise God. After a long time, she has her music back. So I want to make sure that is clear and we spread the truth on that. As Richard said, if we didn't answer something, post it, email it, whatever. We want to answer your questions. We just want to make sure you're protected. We want to make sure you know the business of music. that you understand what you're getting into and that you understand how to protect yourself and you understand that business is the bigger word as you come in this game. So thank you all. I see you. I want to thank like Percy, Lucinda, Kia here, and Lucinda told me post my Cash App. I don't even know how to post that. Jeffrey, thank you. Naomi, and so many of you I see here. Thank you all for tuning in. We wanted to see how this went, so it's good to see the response. Thank you all. My prayers to everyone who has lost a loved one. I've had friends battle. I've had a friend die. Somebody home now, still on oxygen. So I'm praying for everybody who's affected by this horrible, horrible pandemic. But God's on the throne. As I always say, God is still on the throne.
So if you need to get with James, it's James Walker Jr. SQ. That's on Instagram and also on Facebook. If you want to connect with me, I'm at Birdology, BYRDOLOGY, on Instagram and on Facebook. Guys,
hey, Rich,
go ahead.
One last thing, Richard. Everybody wish Richard a happy birthday. This is his birthday weekend. Wish Yana Crawley a happy birthday. It's her birthday today or tomorrow. So, Richard, happy birthday. Thank you for taking time out of your birthday weekend to get this set up. I've never used this software, so everything you've done today is atypical of how you normally do things for the firm. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'm sure I'll get an invoice, but thank you so much and happy birthday to you. Please, everybody, wish Richard a happy birthday. Did I just see David Frazier come in? Hold on.
Yeah, David's in here.
Oh, okay. I didn't see David Frazier. Power belongs to God. He's in here. Okay. Hello, Mr. Frazier. So,
listen, David actually got me to sing using the new Voicey app the other day for his challenge.
Oh, okay. Well, David has a challenge, the I Need You to Survive challenge. So everybody check that out when you can. But thank you, David. Thank you, Martin, Al Thomas. There's so many of you. I just think to watch the movie tonight and let us hear your thoughts.
All right, guys. Thank you so very much, Attorney Walker. Thank you. We'll stick around. We're going to cut the live, but we'll still stick around a little bit in the chat room to answer some other questions if you have them. This should go back up in probably about 20 minutes. It'll take for them to render this on Facebook, and we'll get it back up to you, and we'll leave it up there for a couple of days or so, see how it goes. But again, thank you so very much for joining us today. This business of urban music. I guess that's going to be the name we're going to use, JW. Again, check out the Clark movie tonight on Lifetime. We love you. Thanks a lot. Peace.
Peace.